Brace yourself for a profound revelation on money and wealth and abundance. Yes, today we are talking about wealth and abundance. We are going to talk about what stops us from generating wealth and abundance and what is wealth in the first place and what are the ways that we can make money. And then finally, why are people not financially abundant? Yeah, I don't know. I think I could like an answer on that myself. But anyway, why are we talking about money in the first place? Well, money is one of the areas that really creates the most stress for us, because if you don't know how to master your money is going to master you. And while money isn't everything, we're taught money isn't everything. Without it, you are definitely going to be struggling. And so, what if you could change your relationship to money and could guarantee yourself more abundance? How would you like that? Well, we are going to talk about some ways that you can have wealth and abundance. And it's probably not what you think it is. And so, yeah, money is in a magnifier. If you have it, it doesn't change who you are, but it can help, magnify. If you're a good person, it will magnify and give you more money to help more people. And if you're a Scrooge, you'll just become a bigger Scrooge on that. And hopefully that's not you. But we're going to ask you some questions about money in a little bit. But I wanted to talk about I went through the experience of answering those questions and looking at what was my relationship to money and what did I grow up with when I was a kid. And so when I was a girl, so my dad, I come from a family. I am a second generation Canadian, and I grew up in a family where my grandparents and great grandparents immigrated from Ukraine. And I do have a story that one of my parents came. They came for 25. It cost them $25 to get a ticket to come to Canada to help settle the West and farm in the West. And once they got here, because of it was a lot of hardship that they had, they actually would have gone back to the Ukraine if they actually could afford it, but they had no money. They gave all that they had to come to Canada and they had no way to go back. But I'm grateful for that journey. And I know that, for each generation was about bettering it for the next generation. And my family was very entrepreneurial. And I'm the first person that went to university and got a corporate job. So the rest of my family is all on the entrepreneurial side. And I remember my dad, I mean, that was back in the day when the banks were open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and you had to wait in this crazy lineup to see a bank teller to get your money. It wasn't like you could just, go online and transfer money here and there. It's so different from what it is today. And so my dad, given his business, he was in the moving business. So whenever his drivers were going out of town and they needed money for a hotel or a motel, or they needed the money for the gas for the trucks and all that, there were no credit cards. My dad had the money. So my dad always had this big stack of money, and his wallet was always bursting at the seams because he had so much money in it. And so we didn't come from a rich family. I would say we were, above middle class, but I mean that boundary has changed a lot since I was a kid. But we were definitely not rich, but we were better, well off enough. I never lacked for anything. My parents always got me whatever I needed. And so I am very grateful for how I grew up. But when I'm answering the question, so I didn't have any of this, money is evil and all of that. but I was answering the questions. I just had a real hard time. And it wasn't until recently when I was part of one of our uh, elite mentorship forum groups that I realized why that was. And somebody else had the same experience. And so I'm actually indifferent to money. And I had no idea that that's what was causing me to have problems to answer all of these questions. But now I realize that I was indifferent to money. And so I can flip that around now. Instead of saying I'm indifferent to money, on the positive side, I would say that money flows through me. And you can take that whatever way you want, but it's the truth. Money flows through me. And yeah, so is my relationship with money good? It's not bad, but I would like it to be better. And that's why we're here today talking about money. Deb, how about you?
Hey there. Well, I kind of love what you said there. And my experience growing up was different than yours. So I find it very interesting that somebody could be indifferent to money. But I
I only
understand what you're saying, though.
there's
Like,
I've only heard that once before.
yeah, it's definitely rare, and you definitely are a rare gem. So not surprised at all. But yeah, that's a different aspect. I'm indifferent to money. Yeah, not too many people are going to say that. I 1,000% agree. Not many people are going to feel that way.
No.
Um, but I love the way that it's changed, that like you're just becoming aware of it and what it really means,
Mhm.
and then changing it to it flows through you in a positive way. For me, I grew up in a family, I would also say like, um, I grew up feeling like we didn't have enough. Um, however, it's always about the context of the situation, right?
Mhm.
So I went to a private school though for 12 years. And obviously, in order to go to a private school, you have to pay tuition.
Yeah.
And yep, it costs money. And it was not just me. I am one of five children. We all went to private school. My dad, though, and this is like, just to say this though, my dad had a seventh grade education. So, how you get a seventh grade education. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and you put five children through private school. Um, I've often asked them, I'm like, are you sure you still have all your body parts? Like, what were you doing? Like, how did you do that? Right? Because now I'm a mother, single income household with three, and they're spread out. So you'd think the cost would be right. And the funny thing for me is, I still I feel like I'm in the same situation. Like, I sent my two older boys to private school. One in fifth grade was like, I'm done. Just send me to regular school. And I was like, awesome, dude. That sounds great to me, right? Because I'm still functioning from this place of lack. Like, we're okay, right? And I know you're going to get into that a little bit later, like where we're going to discuss like how that mindset right there that I did have, like, we're good, we're okay, but still feeling like we're lacking and not really expecting things to get a whole lot better. But we're like, but we're doing great. Like, this is fine. This is how it's supposed to be. And that's what I grew up with. And going through EMF and having these conversations around what is wealth and what is money, and learning to live with, and I know you're going to say this later because we can't say it enough, living basically with this attitude of gratitude for what we have now is what truly makes us wealthy. And that I do have an abundance of. I do have an abundance of gratitude, and that does make my life experience great. And so changing with EMF is me learning how to hopefully add more value in the world and therefore attracting more abundance into my life and my children's life. And that's kind of my story with the mindset change happening with um, the Elite Mentorship Forum.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to get into more about the mindset and how that is extremely important to your ability to have wealth and abundance. It's
Right.
not about working harder. I played that game for many years. It's not
Right.
about that for sure. So let's talk about it. I love your story, and it's nice to, yeah, putting 5 kids through private school. Wow, that's like me. I put 4 kids through dancing and all that stuff. It was like a
Yeah.
lot of money to give them that enriched education through the dance, and also soccer was the other one, or if you're in the UK, football. And
Yeah.
so I can get it. I had 4 kids. I can't, and every kid is a magnifier of how much that you need to be able to give them that wealth of experience for sure.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're grateful for the fact that you were able
I am,
to.
I am extremely grateful for
Yeah,
what my parents did for us. And they also made sure, because of their lack of education, they also valued that.
yeah,
So we also all went to college. We all graduated with degrees. And yeah, it's interesting to watch the cycles of life, especially when it comes to money and things like that, because,
yeah.
I have a son going to college. I have one who tried it and didn't pan out for him, and we'll see what the third one does. And you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting to see though, but as we're learning though, like a college education, I'm grateful for mine because it made things possible, but there's also so many avenues, and I think it's important that we keep an open mind about that, and which
Yeah.
where are people going? So yeah, I love this conversation about wealth and abundance and your financial,
And you
well,
made a good point, is that the whole thing is that in this day and age, there are so many opportunities for people. We live in an age when there are endless opportunities. If you go on social media, there's always somebody saying that, you can get rich by doing this and that and da 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 da. And, if you go back, not that long ago, if you were a singer, the only way to get a contract or to become a singer was to get a record label, on a record, signed by a record label, and they made the decisions about who was going to get the opportunities and not. And now you can start off on social media and post, and if you can make yourself on that, or any of these shows, there's so many opportunities that we have now. And that's just one area.
right,
There's all sorts of areas where the opportunities are there. So what stops us from generating wealth and abundance if there's so many opportunities? So the whole thing starts with our own financial blocks that are in our head or in our body. And we as people cannot rise above the opinion of ourself. And so basically what we do is we put this inherent ceiling, like a glass ceiling on ourselves, that says, hey, I this is what I'm capable of earning. And I don't think any of us realize that we have this. It's something that's subconscious. But when you find different ways to make money, the chances are you're not going to make more than you made the first time. So there's quite a bit of, I guess, things that we need to work on, because our financial identity is actually the reason why we have this glass ceiling, and it is developed when we're a kid. It's not something that we develop later in life. So by the time that you are 10 to 12 years old, you have deep seated roots about money that likely are not changed. But the good news is, if you're here today and you're listening and you're serious about change, you can go on this personal transformation and growth and actually analyze and look at these things and make some changes. But most people, they just go through life, I guess, just assuming and acclimatizing ourselves to our own beliefs that are subconscious. And so, how do you make some changes to what you believe? Well, the first step is to start by doing a financial belief audit. And that is about what are those deep rooted beliefs around money. And you need to write them down. You can't just put them in your head. Always have to be written down. There's a real connection to writing things down on paper, not typing them, but writing them. And you also need to go deep and ask questions. So the first question are, what are your beliefs? So if you're really serious about that, sit down on, I don't know, a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon when it's quiet with a pen and a paper and write down what your beliefs are. That is your first step to being able to move away and conquer, I guess, be able to get rid of that glass ceiling and change your beliefs, understanding. So ask yourself, what did your parents say? Like I grew up with, I didn't even realize, the whole stacks of money that my dad had. To me, it didn't, it didn't matter whether it was my dad's money or his company's money. It was his company's money. All I saw were these stacks of money. It's like kids in today's world where they see their parents go to a bank machine and pull out money, think that you can just go and get as much money as you want. Well, I had that same kind of perception because my dad's wallet was always full. And yeah, but that's a good thing. And then what happened in your childhood? What did you grow up with? What did you think about rich people? Did you grow up thinking money was good or money is hard to come by? I love this one. Money grows on trees. Money is scarce. And I think a lot of people have grown up that money is scarce or money's the root of all evil. So just sit down and take a listen to yourself about, what are your beliefs and write them down. And that's your first step. And then the next step after that is to rank it. So look on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is indifferent and 10 is you're highly charged about what you wrote down, and scale it from 1 to 10. And so this is how you're going to figure out which beliefs you are the most tied to. And that is the first step to figuring it out, because uh, the other thing that I'll say, and then I will talk about actually what wealth is that my most people are confusing their self-worth with their net worth and thinking that whatever their net worth is reflects on what their self-worth is. And so that's going to trigger the fear that we're not good enough. And so to avoid that, we won't risk our money, and we come up with this scarcity mentality that we have to hold on to our money. And so we want to look at breaking that cycle, because there is never going to be enough money if you're in a scarcity mentality. So we need to really change those beliefs. And so on that note, Deb, what is our wealth? How is the wealth and money? What is the whole thing with wealth and money?
So basically, wealth is the perception that's of abundance. And if you're having a scarcity mindset or a poverty mindset, it's the perception that you are in lack. So when you do a real deep dive on that, right, you're going to talk about wealth and poverty. And like you said, Debbie, people oftentimes come with this um, mindset or this belief that they have from when they were young that money is hard to come by. Money is only for other people. I can only get this much money. I have a level set here. And the thing about the perception of wealth or poverty is, where is this line? Donald Trump's children are saying, I don't know what they'd say because I have no idea. This is not my realm. But if I was Donald Trump's children, I'm thinking, I have, let's say, $5 million in my bank account. And they're like, ugh, things are getting a little tight, right? Versus, um, I don't know, your average school teacher looking, that's what I am, right? The average school teacher might be like, oh, I made $100,000 this year. We're doing amazing. This is a great year, right? It's perception.
Yeah.
Who's happier? Donald Trump's children or your average American teacher? The bank account is not going to decide that. Our perception of the bank account can, but actually the money isn't changing the abundance that you feel in life. I'm sure that all of us can think of somebody who seems to have it all. Their bank account is padded. They've got millions of dollars. They're living in a luxury home. They have luxury cars. They eat, fine dining, great clothes, right? And yet we know that they're not really happy. They're not feeling fulfilled. They're not feeling abundant in life. We've
Mhm.
also heard stories about people who live in what most of us would consider to be the worst possible scenarios in life, where they truly are struggling to provide for the basic needs in life. And yet they seem extremely abundant and joyful and full of gratitude for the life that they do have and the things that they do have. So when it comes to talking about wealth and abundance, we're not always talking about the financial bank account. So I think maybe people do chase financial abundance, but it's not the only kind of abundance there is, and it's actually probably not the most important. Um, and I know you ask people who are struggling with other things in their life, right? Like, do you want $1 million? I actually just heard someone talking the other day, and they basically put it like this: if you had the choice, I can give you $1 million, but you're going to die tomorrow. Do you want the $1 million? No. Most people will say no. I know there are crazy few out there who are like, yeah, give me the $1 million. I'm going to put it in somebody else's name and I'm out of here. I like, these are the kind of thoughts that we have, right? I can give you $1 million today, but you're going to be horribly sick for the rest of your life. Do you want the $1 million? So there are things more important than money. I'm just trying to make a point there that we could argue that all day, playing devil's advocate, like, right? And how to also, again, try to use trickery to get more money. I just want more money, right? Because we think it's the answer to everything. But if you really talk to people, money is an amplifier, as you said, Debbie. Money is an amplifier, and it does open more options and choices for us, but it's not the most important thing in your life. Your relationships are more important, your health is more important, and your life in general is more important than money. And it's important, I think, to learn to live a grateful life and a joyful life, learning to be grateful for the things you do have. And it's also okay to learn new ways to create money, because I kind of feel like I skipped a part here where I was going to talk about the 5 ways you can get money, right? And I
Yep.
want to do it real quick because I think it kind of really, I think, just kind of hones in like, okay, right? Obviously, most of us talk about being wealthy. We want to talk about our financial bank account. And there are 5 ways to get money, Deb.
Five
Guess what?
ways.
I'm pretty sure we're all aware of well, we're probably all aware of all the ways. It's just which way do we end up choosing? Most people decide to earn it. You go get a job and you trade your time for money, right? Now, what
Mhm.
you do and how much you get paid per hour or per job is up to you, but you're trading your time for money. And also, depending on other life choices, the fulfillment that that gives varies, but it's usually the least fulfilling way to get money because you're simply trading your time. Like, oh, fine, I'm going to do this for the next 8 hours and I'm going to get, I don't know what you're going to get. $200, $500, $75. I don't know, right? But either way, you're still just trading your time for money and it might not be fulfilling.
Yeah.
This,
So
go
I
ahead.
know, sorry to interrupt,
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
but when I was working my corporate job, I would say that at least 80% of the people there, that's just my perception, came to work on Monday and could hardly wait until Friday to have the 2 precious days on the weekend, and then go back and do it all over again and hate their job and hate what they're doing and just live for the weekend. So many people just live for the weekend.
Right. That
That's
is
the
true.
corporate. That's when you're working for somebody else. That's a
That
lot of reality for a lot of people.
very much so.
Yeah.
So
All right.
good anecdote. The second way you can get money, sorry, is to win it. Guess what your chances of winning enough money to retire and quit are? It's like 14 million to 1. So if you're feeling real lucky, you can do that. Number 3, you can steal it. There's going to be some consequences, perhaps, but you can steal money. I don't think you're going to feel very good about yourself, though. Number 4, you can inherit it, what everybody calls, I'm not even going to say that. You just be super lucky, right? And that comes with its own problems, though, too, because I mean, as much as, I've been wishing for some far off, long lost relative to be like, hey, Deb, here's your $1 million. Um, as great as that would feel, and I'd like to think I could grow and I could handle it. But ultimately, one, I can't sit around waiting on that to happen. And two, again, it doesn't come with the fulfillment of creating it on your own.
Mhm.
And creating money is number 5. You can make money, you can create money. And this has a 20 to 1 odds of happening for you. And when you're creating the money, that means that you have found a way to offer value to other people where money does flow to you. Not because you're just so special and lucky, but because you found a way to share some value with other people. So I just really didn't want to skip out on those 5 ways to
Yeah.
make money or get money because I think it's kind of eye opening when we really think about it. And that's really pretty much all I just want to say about there. Like, so if we can find ways to create more value for other people, and you're not you're still not chasing the money. You're chasing the dream that you have because that's going to be your heart-centered calling, whether it is to play a sport. I mean, like, I'm kind of always like watching sports players, like, I sure wish I could play baseball well enough that I could go play games and get paid. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes in that lifestyle, though, right? And they make their $1 million and then they lose it, and we read about them on the news and they're totally broke. So, again, so much more to this wealth and abundance game than just the almighty dollar.
It is, and you think it's same with people who win the lottery.
Yes.
The statistics are that most people are back to where they were within 2 years, I believe, and that's because, there's that glass ceiling, and you get all this money, and it's like more than you can like more than whatever, and
So
just
much.
basically, you gotta empty the tank to get back down to that glass ceiling.
Right. It's crazy. It is
It
crazy when you
is
start,
crazy, but
when
it's
you're aware
true.
of it and then you see it. Like, I see it in my own life. I can see where that's happened, and you're just like, "Is that what's going on? Come on now." Yeah. So being aware. First step. Let's be aware.
That's right.
Yes.
But you know, when it comes to why we're not financially abundant, because we're kind of talking about it already here, we have two bank accounts. There is our financial bank account, which is really that money bank account, but we also have an emotional bank account. And what is the emotional bank account? Well, that's what's coming inside of us. And we've talked about this one before, that our outer world follows our inner world. And so our inner world is, you know, our thoughts, our feelings, that kind of stuff. How we, I guess, our metaphysical, not the tangible stuff. Our outer world is the physical world that we're in, but how we think is how we're going to, I guess, be perceived and how our outer world is going to be. And here's my Wayne Dyer quote: as you think, so shall you be. So your outer world, your inner world, and how you think and how you perceive your world, whether it's a good world or a bad world, an abundant world or a scarce and lack world, is how you're what's going to show up in your outer world. And so rather than looking at what's in our financial bank account, whether you're Donald Trump's kids with millions of dollars or you're a school teacher with, I don't know, $100 in the bank or however much you've got saved, it doesn't matter. Don't look at that side. What you need to look at is your emotional side and how are you projecting yourself in the world. And so um, it's really, that's kind of the whole thing. And what happens is, it's if we say, oh yeah, I'm projecting ahead, because I've gone through this with some friends who were having some struggles with money. And, if no matter how much you say be positive, their focus is on the lack, that they don't have money, they can't do things. And so they're just projecting more of that onto the world. So it's hard to do, because the other thing is there is this thing called the Newtonian transition point, which means that whatever you're thinking and however you're perceiving yourself in the world, it takes a bit of time for that to actually show up in your bank account. And so you need to make your emotional bank account higher, and then your physical bank account will be higher, your financial one. But that takes time. So as an analogy, if you had a little toy boat and you were playing with that on the water and you had like a little remote control, when you turn right, the boat's going to turn right away. But if you were in an oil tanker and you turned right, it would take a long time before you would see any change. You can't turn on a dime with an oil tanker. And so our emotional bank account is really, we have that time. It's like we're an oil tanker, so you have to give it time. And most people are not giving it the time because they're thinking about what's already happened, and they'll think, well, it's not working because I'm being positive and I'm not seeing any results. You need to give it more time for it to be able to come into results. And the more you focus on the money, the further away it's going to get from you. You
Right?
got to focus on that emotional side and giving value to people. How can I serve people? Ask that question. How can I serve? How can I add value? And as soon as you start adding value, yes, there's a little bit of time, but you will start seeing that financial bank account rise to the level that your the emotional bank account is at. And interestingly enough, it's living in poverty is actually an easier way to grow up, because you have less challenges when you're living in poverty. And the more challenges you have, the harder it is to grow up because there's more things to learn. So, for example, if you're living in poverty and you're in a cave and you're in a, like a recluse, you have a simple environment. There's no one that you can get angry at. There's no one who can give you their crap and all this stuff. And so it's you don't have much to grow up. So yeah, so some of that, a lot of people, that's another reason in poverty is if
Sorry.
you have the money and you aren't attached to it, that's when you're going to actually grow. Get rid of the ego. Have that emotional bank account up here. Hard thing
Right.
to do, but that's what you need to do. And gotta let it, got give it time because it's not going to happen overnight. And once you give it time, then you will start to see changes. And we've got a lot of stories from our friends and our peers in the Elite Mentorship Forum, our EMF group, who have let go, and they have seen a lot of change in their life from working on their emotional bank account first over the physical bank account. I know I have seen change too.
Yes. And I think
All right.
ultimately that's what most people are looking for is um, that fulfillment in life.
Yeah.
And people think money is the answer to it, but it's not.
Yeah.
It could be a side benefit, or if you want to look at it that way. But like you said, and like I've even said, like it's not your financial bank account isn't determining your life fulfillment or your joy in life. Your
Yeah.
attitude about what you have is. So
But having money doesn't hurt, that's for sure.
it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt,
It
but it's not
helps.
going to
Yeah.
solve your problems. It's not going
Yeah.
to end all of. It's not going to end all struggles in your life. It's not going to, um, it's
Yeah.
not going to solve everything. It's just a different set of problems that will come with it. So you have to be really emotionally strong to
Yeah.
handle $1 million, $100,000, $10,000. You have to just learn to master this game.
Start with your emotional bank account.
Absolutely. I love it.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have anything else. That's all I had to say.
Those are all
There's
some fabulous
definitely a lot
words.
more. I mean, there's so
Yes.
much
So
more
much
to
more.
it, but that kind of is the start of how, to break through that whole glass ceiling.
Right. And
And
I love the questions that you put out. So I hope people listening do take the time to go through that exercise when they have the time and really see what it brings up for them, because I think it's a very powerful exercise and it brings up some things that maybe weren't, I know for me, it brought up things that I wasn't even aware of that now I am, and it changes my perspective. So, along with, like you said, there's a lot more conversation we could have. We could probably talk for 2 days about this. But tonight we're just going to give it, our 45 minutes. So, all right. Again, thank you to everyone who listened while we're live. Thanks for anyone who's listening to the replay. And Debbie and I want to invite anyone that has found this or anything we said in the past interesting. We are going to be hosting a Create a Life You Love workshop this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we just invite you to come and go through some exercises that will hopefully um, just kind of guide you in the direction that you are seeking to go for yourself. Um, and with that being said, I wanted to add on here. The last time we did Create a Life You Love challenge, one person that had joined us just kind of made the comment. She was just like, being here on this call and this webinar workshop, she's like, made a bigger impact than going to therapy for years has. So, not to toot our own horns, but this is the kind of impact that this work has on people. So, I hope you will join us Saturday. I'm grateful for you showing up here tonight. And Debbie, thanks as always.
yeah, and
Great talk.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. And the first step to being able to reach your goals on what you want for your life is to write it down. And we're going to ask you those tough questions and give you some time to it's basically a hot pen exercise where you're going to write and write and write, and just whatever pours out of your heart, in terms of what do you want your life to look like. It's a really important exercise. So always valuable, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So find a road and work towards that road and that life that you want. Don't
Right,
settle. All right.
right. Thank you.
On that note, we'll see if you're interested, you can say workshop in the chat to us, and we will send you the workbook, right?
Yes, we'll send the workbook and the link.
And the link to our our Zoom call on Saturday morning. Yeah, it's a good opportunity to work on the life that you want and not the life that you're just defaulting into.
Absolutely. So, all right, everybody. Thank you. And we will see you next Wednesday as well.
All right. Bye for now.